Herb and music is the healing of the nation. See? Herb is the key to inspiration, the doors of inspiration. Without herb, any other thing cause distortion.
Greetings and welcome to In the Trees, the cannabis, gardening, and lifestyle podcast highlighting methods, products, growers, and breeders from Maine, the East Coast, and beyond. I'm your host, Mr. Roots, and I'm stoked to deliver you the lowdown on all things cannabis, presented not just for the well-vetted OGs in the garden, but for those buying a seed pack to grow their very first garden. This show is especially for those buying their very first cannabis to try. If you are listening in your car, sit back, relax, and strap on your seatbelt. And if you are listening in the garden, turn us up so you can hear us over the fans. Sending out good vibes from the rock-bound coast of Maine, we are In the Trees. Welcome to another special feature episode of In the Trees podcast. This special feature is all about how to choose quality cannabis flower to smoke, and it's designed to help provide good folks like yourself with some perspectives on what to look for and maybe stay away from when choosing what flower to buy. A while back, I was talking to a friend of mine who's involved in production editing about potential episode ideas for the show. He was very adamant and convincing about the need for In the Trees podcast and people like myself, who are focused on quality and sustainability in this field, to work at putting out information that would help educate people about cannabis, especially consumers. Talking with growers and breeders is great, and it's very interesting, but there's a lot of what you could call intermediate and advanced knowledge provided from these discussions. What about the kind folks who know very little about cannabis, but want to feel confident that what they're trying is quality? If that's something that you've thought about, well, this episode is primed to deliver some insights for you. With adult use in full swing here in Maine and many other states in the country, there are a lot of newcomers to the cannabis scene. So naturally, there seems to be a lot of confusion from consumers about what to look for when buying certain products. It makes perfect sense. If you don't know what to look for, you may or may not be getting what it is you are looking for. The team at In the Trees podcast want to help you with this. So today's episode's one of many that we want to do that we hope will help listeners make more informed decisions when they head into the storefront or dispensary. With this show, we want to provide you with quality information that everyone can get something from, especially all the newcomers to the cannabis scene. With all that in mind, we reached out to some real cannabis aficionados on a state, national, and international level to offer you some trusted perspectives about how to choose quality cannabis to smoke. This is an episode that we hope to get additional perspectives on, so look for a part 2 in the future. And our next episode is a companion to this one that's coming in very hot, very soon. You won't want to miss it and the YouTube videos we have to accompany it. Now for today's panel of guests. We're grateful to be joined by the editor of top-ranking periodical, the Maine Cannabis Chronicle, as well as curator of the very informative website, budtendereducation.com, Katie Weitman.
My pleasure.
Washington State autoflower breeder and knowledgeable herbsman, full duplex of Mandalorian genetics.
Trying to find quality flower.
Michigan-made sound designer, DJ, and member of the production team of this here thing we call In the Trees podcast, my man Mitten.
Let's start it off.
Maine-based herb breeder and top-shelf connoisseur, Drew of Crystal Rose Seed Company.
When I come home and crack the jar and it smells fresh.
And our renowned representative of the plant, the terpenes, resin, and hashish, one of, if not the most famous hash makers in the world today, Frenchy Cannoli. with some very high knowledge regarding how he approaches choosing the right flower to smoke, when he's not smoking hash, of course.
Give my best to all of you guys. I love you much, and I hope to come and make some hash with you soon.
Frenchy also gives a fascinating narrative on cannabis history, as well as some crucial selection principles for all to consider. All right then, here we go. Look under that trim bin screen, brush up some keef, and sprinkle it into a wrap with some headstash flower, because this episode's guests and In the Trees podcast are bringing that fire. In the Trees Cannabis podcast would like to thank the Maine Cannabis Chronicle for sponsoring the show. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out their magazine, you should ask your local caregiver store, dispensary, or grow store if they have a copy of it. If they don't, request that they carry it. The Maine Cannabis Chronicle is a great source of knowledge on all things related to the high-quality herb here in Maine. This is a beautifully edited, full-color, well-done magazine full of captivating articles from some of the best in the business today. Grab a copy and give it a read. Starting us off with some important things to note when looking for quality flower, this is Katie Weitman.
I want to ask you a question about choosing flower. So from a consumer standpoint, if you're going to try to select some really quality flower in a storefront, how is it that you go about doing that?
I look for the terp profile. I like it to have a good smell. If it has a good smell, it's going to have a good taste. I also read somewhere that terp content may be as important or more important than high THC percentage, because terpenes are smaller molecules, and so they prime the blood-brain barrier and allow more THC to go through. But in COVID times, you can't really check most terp profiles. I look for trichome coverage. I really like buds that look pretty. They're not always the best to smoke, and sometimes you get disappointed, especially now where you're just going off the look and you can't compare it with the smell and stuff. Yeah, that would probably be the next thing I look for. Also, when I look at the aesthetics of it, I really like the resiny ones.
Next up, we have Drew of the terpene-rich, Maine-based Crystal Rose Seed Company, bringing some knowledge for all consumers to consider.
All hyped, media hyped, song hyped, whatever strains are getting looked at first, regardless of terpene content, regardless of CBD or THC content. First and foremost is what you see. Shops that let you smell stuff, even better, props to them. Helps me make a decision, and quite frankly, if I can't smell the flower, it's really disappointing when I come home and crack the jar and it smells like a fresh pack, right? They could have had 2 more days in the dry room and 3 more waiting before it gets jarred, But if you can smell it and you can see it, I think that every time you're picking visuals over smell. If you can smell it, then you're going to pick probably what you and I would consider better weed. I personally like having great bag appeal. I love to visually be like, this is really good looking herb, right? Mm-hmm. But not all good looking herb is purple. Right? There's some really crummy looking purple stuff, and there's also some really blinging green.
Yeah.
So that whole visual aspect, it's huge. Cookies just, made it really easy and made it really purple. I still will, I went to Pine Tree the other day and tried some OG1. Great looking, green, resin heads all on the outside. We just went to Cure on the way, and picked up some Mac. All that is purple, white, you know what I mean? Trikes on the outside. So best of both worlds. But visually, people are going after that resin on the outside, bag appeal. I don't know if cookies is necessarily the only way to get there. Right. It's just a really quick way to get there.
And here is a member of our team who always appreciates checking out quality flower. Michigan-born herbsman, Mitten.
Let's start it off. For me, I like open buds, kind of like it's been doing yoga. And it's all stretched out, getting plenty of sunlight and a lot of crystals on the tips of it too. So that's the first thing I go for. But if I'm so inclined, what I'll do is I'll open up the baggie or the jar if I'm at a dispensary and give it a nice little whiff too. And what I look for or smell for, that dirty hippie feet, that like basically BO, no onions, but more of like a tomato, acidic, sweet, warm kind of feeling when you get a big whiff of it too. So as soon as I get that, I'm already sold. The smell is so strong for me that that's something that I really do like. But if I can get another dimension in there, if you get the smoke session in as a treat, you know, somebody smokes you down and says, hey, you might like this Gorilla Glue here, so let me give you a little taster, and you get a couple puffs off it, that's when you know. You got to go like third dimension deep and get that full experience too, because you want to know the effect first and foremost that you're going to be going for. For me, you know, sometimes I'll go into a dispensary feeling kind of rushed. And there's something about feeling rushed when you're in there and you don't get time to really sit and smell and cleanse your palate and then smell again. You can, but your mind is already going to the next thing or really thinking about it. So maybe it's just a practice of mine that I need to become more mindful and pace myself when I get into a dispensary. But there is something about sitting down and being able to take a puff on it to really, really know what the effect will be before you make the purchase. Otherwise, you know, it's kind of like you're always trying something new. It's a new strain, it's a new experience, and then, you know, you can buy little bits of it and then go back for the bigger sizes if you want to upgrade next time. But yeah, it's a fun grab bag because there's so much to choose from out there. It's good to explore it around too.
And next up from across this here nation to the state of Washington is Full Duplex of Mandalorian genetics. With some perspectives both consumers and business owners can consider, with buying as well as presenting flower at market.
Full Duplex, I wanted to ask you a question, man. How do you approach choosing quality flower?
Well, we'll start off with Washington. That makes it a little bit difficult. You know, we were kind of talking about Washington having prepackaged items, and trying to find quality flower through a window is rather difficult. But to answer your question, you know, I'd like to look for the terpenes and if it's appealing to my palate and to my nose. I've been told a long time ago, if it can make your mouth water, then it's reactive to the endocannabinoid system that you have in your body. Now, I don't know if that's science or not, but terpenes are mostly what get me excited the most, because I think there's a lot of false glitter out there. And what I mean by that is just because it's covered in trichromes doesn't necessarily mean it's going to give you what you're looking for. And that's what makes it hard here to pick quality flower. So looking through a plastic bag or a glass jar, it can look, you know, just absolutely covered in frost. You got the lab numbers on the back that tell you its THC percentage, and that's it. You can't smell it. You can't feel it. You can't genuinely look at it to tell if it's something that you want to invest your money in. Now in Oregon, on the other hand, which I'm fortunate, I can go 2 hours south, they're still set up as a connoisseur style. So you can walk in, take a look at the different jars, and a lot of the places, which are nice, they may have that jar on the front and it may entice you to buy it because you like the way it looks, you like the way the terpenes react to you, and then they'll go get fresh stuff out of the back because those jars that are on display are open and closed all day. Mm-hmm. So it's going to deteriorate some of the terpene smells that come out of there. The bud's going to be a little drier, as you know. So yeah, that's basically my thing, is the way my body reacts to the terpene smells that come off of that plant. And I do like structure. It doesn't need to be rock hard. I think that's another thing that people get confused about. It's not a good bud if it doesn't bounce off the table like a golf ball. And I think you know what I mean, stuff that's been grown with regulators.
Yeah.
And to me, that's never really appealed to me in quality, because a lot of the craft flower that I've had from the area, from some of these small batch farms, isn't like that, because it's approached in the way that you and I approach it with, and that's organics. I honestly think if you can find a true organic farm, and the best way to find them is Instagram. You know, that's where most of them do a lot of their advertisement, because we can't do it on TV. You know, check out their practices. And from my experience, stuff that's been grown in organics has got a little bit more love, and it seems those terpenes come out just a little bit more than if it's run through a heavy fertigated or a heavy fertilized process. Now, I'm not saying those other two are wrong, but that's just been my personal experience.
In the Trees podcast is proudly sponsored by the Maine Craft Cannabis Association. The MCCA is a diverse group of businesses and activists committed to supporting an authentic craft cannabis industry in Maine. Their motto, People, Place, and Plant, represents their focus on fighting for craft Maine-grown businesses through their legislative work in Augusta. The MCCA's social activism supports all Mainers' legal protected access to the plant. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Maine Craft Cannabis Association, and please show your support to this extremely valuable organization. And now, we're pleased to present listeners of this podcast some ideas on what to look for and consider in quality flower to smoke. From an international, studied, and wise perspective, here is Frenchy Cannoli with his thoughts.
How is it that you approach grading flower or be able to select flower that you yourself want to smoke?
For me, it was difficult because I never looked at flower before. The flower, the plant is just what hold the resin. I was interested only in a resin. Coming in California, working with breeder and stuff, it's slowly I started to learn about the flower and appreciate more. So now I still look first at the resin. So I look at the density of trichome gland on a flower. That's the most important for me. Then I like it dense, but I like it not hard. You know what I mean? There is that density. It's not like you're on steroid and it's not the real stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a breast implant and stuff like that. And then the coloring is not as important for me. The trimming either, to tell you the truth. Then it's a question of nose. It's like the smell. Mm-hmm. The smell. If you make me some, like, if it's a wow, like something I have never smelled, even if I don't like it, I'm going to be really fascinated by it. It's something I've never experienced. It's that, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen too often. Then I start to really get the data when I dry pull on a joint. And then when I light it, I need to have that same flavor in my mouth than I had dry. If it's different but better, fine, because it happens sometimes. If it's different and not as good, it's downer. It really put me down always. It's like, right. I was expecting so much.
Yeah, I was really hoping it tasted like it smelled.
And then after it's much more, it's very much like ash, how much it takes my mouth, how long it stays, how yummy and unique it is. It's that whole experience of smoking it and looking at the joint and seeing how much oil is coming out of it, if it's really tasty to the end. To really know, you need to experience most of the time with cannabis. It's part knowing it's the experience. It's part of the knowledge.
And that brings me back to a lot of these storefronts where a state might mandate that things are in a container that you can't see into. So that takes the sense of sight away. Then a lot of storefronts do not want you to smell. And certainly in the time of COVID, nobody's going to want you to touch the flower. So now we've eliminated the three senses that we can rely on. And it brings us back to what you spoke about.
Well, we are lucky here in California because you have the terpene profile, you have the cannabinoid content. Already it helps a little bit. They need to tell you if it's indoor or sun-grown or greenhouse. But at the end of the day, you're going to trust somebody to give you something that you believe is going to be good. It's at the end of the day, it's a question of trust. That's why the name of a brand is meaningless. Because if you buy a brand 2 times, 3 times, and it sucks, well, you're not going to buy it again.
Right.
If you buy something that blow your senses away, it's like, it doesn't matter the name. You want more of it.
Yeah, that is so true. Do you prefer sun-grown flower over indoor flower?
I work only with sun-grown because I'm trying to promote like regenerative farming and more awareness so that we can, my daughter can have a future. And me too. I'm getting old, but it's looking really bad.
Oh, man.
And because I believe that the plant expresses herself at a higher level when it's free to rule, because the plant rule. It's like everything in the ground that is breaking the food, it's called by the plant. It's fed by the plant. It's an exchange. Everything that is in the air is controlled by the trichome. That's how the plant kingdom works. Everything is controlled by the 200,000 compound that the plant kingdom can produce in those trichome. Okay? Mm-hmm. Even the system we have in our body, the fact that we can create cannabinoid, opiate, and all that, it's because 300 million years ago, the insect and the plant kingdom went at war. The plant kingdom used terp to rule. The insect world adapted to the rule of the plant kingdom. And we are wired the way we are. It started 300 million years ago.
Oh, man, you just brought it back. Wow.
The power of the plant outside, it's huge.
Yes.
I don't look down on indoor, especially when people do only no-till and organic, non-chemical nutrients. But it's not possible to bring the expression of a plant to that level. You will bring it to different level because you created a different habitat and you can create greatness, definitely. But that sun-grown expression of the plant is just like...
The next time you're on Weed Maps, type in All Kind and give them a follow. All Kind is a medical caregiver storefront in downtown Portland, Maine, specializing in finely crafted infused Belgian chocolate and other tasty cannabis edibles and products. We are proudly supported by All Kind and personally love their high-quality products. Check them out at allkind.buzz on Instagram or go to their website, allkind.buzz, to check out their great selection. Listeners of the show receive a 10% discount by mentioning In the Trees podcast to your bud tender at All Kind. Yes, with so much knowledge there to consider, listeners should probably listen to this episode and our guest's thoughts a few more times and let them sink in. There's a ton of information in these discussions for all of us to consider. For more information about what to look for when choosing quality flower, head over to inthetreespodcast.com and check out this episode's resources. I want to say thank you to our guests for sharing their valuable knowledge with us. Katie Weitman of the Maine Cannabis Chronicle and budtendereducation.com, Full Duplex of Mandalorian Genetics, Mitten of In the Trees, Drew from Crystal Rose Seed Company, and the man himself, Mr. Frenchy Cannoli. Please check out our guests on Instagram and follow them if you aren't already. We also have links to each guest provided to you on our website. I also want to say a big thank you to you, the In the Trees podcast community, for listening to this show, writing us with your questions and comments, and for your continued support through our website and Patreon. It means so much to us. As always, you can write us an email at inthetreespodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on Instagram, visit inthetreespodcast.com, and please subscribe, follow, rate, and review this show on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and all major platforms. Also, we greatly appreciate the support from everyone who has helped spread the word about this show and episode. We love building episodes like this and want to continue to be able to put out quality information like you just heard. Your support means the world to us. For those who want to show even more support and contribute to the evolution of this podcast, please become a patron of the show. You can click the Donate tab, linked to our PayPal and Venmo account, on our website, inthetreespodcast.com, or head over to our Patreon account under In the Trees Podcast. I want to send some love out to you all. We truly care about everyone listening to this show. We appreciate you so much. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other in this cannabis community.